In the small, desolate town of Hollow Creek, a sinister presence lurked beneath the surface. The townsfolk knew better than to venture out after dark, for the shadows had a life of their own, whispering secrets and weaving nightmares. It was said that those who dared to listen to the whispers would never return the same. On a particularly cold and moonless night, a young woman named Evelyn found herself stranded on the outskirts of Hollow Creek. Her car had broken down, and her phone was dead. Desperation gnawed at her as she realized she had no choice but to seek help in the eerie town she had heard so many dreadful stories about. Evelyn walked down the deserted road, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The houses she passed were dark and seemed abandoned, their windows like empty eyes staring back at her. As she approached the center of town, a faint, unsettling whispering began to fill the air. She tried to ignore it, but the voices grew louder, more insistent, like a swarm of insects buzzing inside her head. She quickened her pace, heart pounding, until she saw a dim light flickering in the distance. It was an old inn, the only sign of life in the ghostly town. Evelyn hesitated at the door, her hand trembling as she reached for the handle. She pushed it open and stepped inside, the creak of the door announcing her arrival. The innkeeper, an elderly man with a haggard face and eyes that seemed to see right through her, looked up from behind the counter. "Welcome," he said, his voice raspy and dry. "What brings you to Hollow Creek at this hour?" Evelyn explained her situation, her voice barely above a whisper. The innkeeper nodded slowly, his expression grave. "You're lucky you made it here," he said. "The shadows are restless tonight." Evelyn's skin prickled with unease. "What do you mean?" The innkeeper sighed deeply. "This town is cursed, miss. The shadows, they whisper, they tempt you with promises, play on your fears and desires. Those who listen are never the same. Some disappear, others lose their minds." A chill ran down Evelyn's spine. "Is there a place I can stay for the night?" The innkeeper nodded and handed her a key. "Room 7 at the end of the hall. Keep your door locked and don't listen to the whispers." Evelyn thanked him and made her way to the room, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. The room was small and sparsely furnished, but it felt safe compared to the darkness outside. She locked the door behind her and sat on the bed, trying to calm her racing heart. The whispering, however, seemed to follow her, seeping through the walls and into her mind. She tried to ignore it, but the voices were persistent, growing louder and more coherent. They spoke of lost loves, unfulfilled dreams, and deepest fears. Evelyn covered her ears, but it was no use. The voices were inside her head. "Join us," they whispered. "We can give you everything you've ever wanted." Evelyn squeezed her eyes shut, tears streaming down her face. "No," she muttered. "Leave me alone." The whispers grew more urgent, more desperate. "You can't escape us. We know your secrets, your desires. Embrace the shadows, and you will have everything." Evelyn's resolve began to waver. The shadows seemed to pulse and writhe around her, beckoning her to give in. She could feel their cold touch, like icy fingers trailing across her skin. The temptation was overwhelming. "Just one wish," the voices coaxed. "One wish, and all your dreams will come true." Evelyn's mind raced. She thought of her mother, bedridden and suffering from a terminal illness. The doctors had given up hope. But what if the shadows could save her? What if they could cure her mother? "Can you save my mother?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The shadows seemed to pause, their whispers softening. "Yes," they hissed. "We can heal her. Just make the wish, and it will be done." Evelyn's heart ached with longing. She had tried everything to save her mother, spent every penny on treatments, but nothing had worked. The thought of losing her was unbearable. If the shadows could truly save her. With a trembling breath, Evelyn whispered, "I wish for my mother to be cured." The room fell silent. The shadows stopped moving, and for a moment, there was nothing but stillness. Then, a cold, cruel laughter echoed through the room. "You've made your wish," the voices said, their tone mocking. "Now you belong to us." The shadows surged forward, engulfing Evelyn in darkness. She screamed, but no sound escaped her lips. The icy tendrils wrapped around her, pulling her into the abyss. The last thing she heard was the sinister whisper of the shadows, promising eternal torment. In the morning, the innkeeper found Evelyn's room empty. The bed was neatly made, the key resting on the nightstand. There was no sign of struggle, no indication that anyone had been there. The only evidence of her presence was a single piece of paper, lying on the floor. It was a letter, written in a shaky hand. "I'm sorry, Mother. I tried to save you, but now the shadows have taken me. Forgive me." The innkeeper sighed and folded the letter, placing it in a drawer with countless others. He knew Evelyn was gone, just like so many before her. The shadows had claimed another victim, feeding on her fears and desires. Hollow Creek remained silent, its streets empty and lifeless. The whispering shadows continued to haunt the town, waiting for their next victim, and in the darkness, Evelyn's voice joined the chorus, forever whispering, forever trapped.